Hi, everybody, and welcome to our virtual artist talk with Susanne Thea, sponsored by the Kofod Family Foundation. I'm Thea Nagaraj, the Associate Curator of Exhibitions here at the Museum of Danish America. So let's get started. Susanne Thea is a Danish artist whose series, Snapshots, Traveling with the Poet Hans Christian Andersen, is currently on display at the museum, and you can see some photographs of the gallery right here. It will be closing on June 6th, so I invite everyone to come out and see it before it closes if you're able. After this, it will be heading to the Danish Cultural Center in Newton, Massachusetts, and will be on display there as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to Susanne Thea and let her take it away.
If you leave this screen on, Daya, I will start talking about this. This is always, how does a project start? How does anything start in life? How does a house become a house? And how did Snapshots start? 2 years in a row, 14 and 15, I was invited to participate in exhibitions in Odense, the hometown, birth town of Hans Christian Andersen. And it was actually not really on my schedule at that point, because I had just been to Louisiana, a beautiful museum outside Copenhagen, where they were exhibiting Emil Nolde. And I had decided I am going to spend years working with the beautiful flowers, sunflowers of Emil Nolde. And at the exhibition, they had his watercolors, which were actually new to me. And I just simply had to touch them. So what you see here from Snapshot in the museum in Elkhorn, you see some of the images that started off this whole exhibition. I have the sunflower, and then I was invited to participate in this exhibition in Copenhagen, in Odense. And I was, okay, but I'm working with the flowers. So what I did was I took Hans Christian Andersen paper cuts, and I added them inside the flowers. So here you have this guy holding the whole city on his hand, the man of balance. And here you have some dancing angels. You can't really see it from here, but this is just how to tell you how it all started. And then, Daya, should I start working on my participation, my screen, my pictures, the exhibition?
Absolutely.
Oh, no, I want to tell you. Yeah, you were saying something?
You can start sharing whenever you'd like.
Okay, I would like to show some of how this all starts. So I have to find a copper plate, and here it comes. I work on a copper plate. Can you see this plate? And nodding the head is really good for me. And in this plate, you might find that there's a little drawing, there's a line drawing. I cover the plate with some varnish, and with a small pen, I draw this drawing in it, and then I can add the plate into iron chloride, and I can do an etching. After I've done the drawing and the etching, I can make a print of a line drawing. Can you see it? Okay, so this is one of the pictures in this exhibition that is done by line drawing. And then in this exhibition, I decided I'm going to paint all the pictures. So it's a hand-colored copper etching. What you will find is that most of the scenes in the exhibitions they're all, I'll start sharing screen now. Okay, and this is gonna take me a second because whoa, I'm getting good. So here we have Denmark. This is where I am, and here we have the poet. Some of the pictures might be a little too big for your screen. Can you see it, or was it better when it was a bit bigger? Is it okay like that? Yeah. So here we have a copper etching in black and white. This is not hand colored. And here we have Hans Christian Andersen. And this is where it all started with him and his voyage in 1840 where he was traveling down through Germany, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Bulgaria, and sailed up back up the Danube. And I'm taking you on this journey. This is the first time I sort of renewed with my pictures. I haven't been close to the exhibition for 1.5 years. I left the exhibition in Yorba Linda in California in December 2019, and after that it'd been to Seattle, Washington, and then it came to you in Elkhorn, and this is where we are now. So we have Hans Christian Andersen. He's going on a voyage, and he's leaving Copenhagen. He's out here on the boat. He's waving in the round tower in Copenhagen. Some of you might have seen it. If you've been in Copenhagen, you most certainly might have seen it. And you might also have walked up this staircase up here and been standing up here looking out over all of Copenhagen. He's looking back at his town. He really likes Copenhagen, and he loves going to the theater, the Royal Copenhagen Theater, and he loves going to concerts. And he's been at the theater watching the Spanish dancers, Dolores, and he's now traveling on a boat from Copenhagen to Kiel in Germany. And on this boat, to his surprise, he meets the Spanish dancer Dolores. And they're so seasick. You can see the sea is really heavy. And he is talking and talking like I am right now. And she's standing with her head against one wall and a leg against another wall. And he's telling her about Thorvaldsen, the sculpture Thorvaldsen, that he has been so inspired by these Spanish dancers that he's making sculptures of them. What I've done is I took my inspiration from Hans Christian Andersen's paper cuttings of his Christmas paper cuttings of women given as a Christmas present to the children that he visited at castles. And I tell the story inside the dress of a woman. I have a feeling that very few of you will be surprised by me saying a lot of stories, most stories, starts in a skirt of a woman. Right? So here we have Halley's Comet. That's one of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales, because I was like, who's going to know what's on this picture besides me? I need to add in some icons from his fairy tales so viewers might recognize something they know. I also have a feeling not very many people knows that Hans Christian Andersen actually wrote a small fairy tale about the comet. Some of his fairy tales, they're only 20 lines. They're very short, but they made it worldwide. He's never been traveling to the States, but he's made a fairy tale of the States, and I'll talk about that later. But he's been traveling in the States with me, San Antonio, Houston, Yorba Linda, and on his own, Seattle, Elkhorn. And he's going on, but we will how do you say that? Renewed. We meet each other again in Newton, that's for sure. Okay. He travels on a horse carriage he's in Germany now. He travels with the horse carriage to the castle in Brandenburg, where the count is greeting him. And we have the small leprechaun sitting in the tree, holding out a gold glass, giving it to one of the counts. It's a saying, and you see a horse leg here. He's giving this wine glass to this count, and it should be on display in this castle. I've tried to get inside this castle, but as I am not a golf member, I've been in contact with them. They haven't let me in, so I might need to start playing golf to get into this castle. This picture, you might recognize this fairy tale, and I have to find it here too. We have the tinderbox, the soldier walking towards the witch that's trying to persuade him to go down into the tree. You know this? And here we have a space ship. My friend Anna Holiday, who lives in Houston, said to me, Susanne, you need to be updated in this artwork. People need to see something from now. And I'm like, yes, of course they do. So going to America, I added in this spaceship. He's traveling on. He's going to Hamburg. He's traveling with Stern. This can become maybe a little bigger. Is this better? He's sitting on the boat. Some of you might need to unmute your microphone just for now. Or mute it, sorry. We have Hans Christian Andersen standing here on this boat. He's sailing up the Stern, and he's looking at this young woman with a baby child on her hands, holding it and kissing it gently. And when I was reading this, I was already on my own journey, making my own story. Oh, a single mother, poor. She was clean, but not very expensive dressed. And of course, this is what is happening. Single mother on a boat, and he's noticing it. And then Hans Christian Andersen, he just keeps looking. And what's happening is that the ocean liner from America comes in. One is going out. A boat is being set into water. The father comes out. The mother meets the father in the boat. So this was actually a family reunion and not a single mother kissing her child. The fairy tales are the wild swans, and we have the little mermaid down here. And it was 800 years celebrating of our absolutely the world most beautiful flag, red and white, the body and the blood. He travels, he arrives in Hamburg, and he is so lucky that it's possible for him to get into a concert with one of his favorite composers, Liszt. He gets into the concert hall, and when he arrives in the hall, he sees all these men dressed up in white tuxedos, and they look like stockbrokers, he thinks. And on a sofa, he sees this young Jewish woman and he thinks she looks like a walrus with a fan. So this is what she looks like here. And up here we have the Danish Queen, and we have the Prince of Consort. And Hans Christian Andersen came very late, so he could get a small view from up here. And he was looking down at Liszt, and when he saw him, he was like, oh, he looked like a demon. And I was like, okay, this is when he tunes in to start playing the concert. I can imagine that he might be very, but when he started playing, he looked like an angel. So I gave him wings, and out of his fingers came steam trains. And we have the little, as a Thumbelina, I just have to find this picture. Yeah, the little Thumbelina. And we have the fairy tale, the woman with the egg here. It's quite bold of Hans Christian Andersen to put in the steam train here, because this is actually after he leaves Hamburg, his first journey on a steam train. Can you see the full picture? Are you okay with this? And here he is. When he's in the train station, he's so scared. There's feet everywhere. There's carriages everywhere carrying suitcases. There are trains. There's a lot of noise. And he's really feeling very uneasy, very afraid that he will get his toes cut off. But when he gets into the train, he feels the comfort of looking out the window and acknowledge that it's right what they say. When you look out the window straight out, it's like the horizon is running by with 200 kilometers an hour. But when you look far out in the horizon, everything is so slow, as if it is standing still. Here we have the fairy tale, the flying trunk. We have a flying trunk here, and we have little clumsy hands here. He arrives at Nuremberg, and we have the ESS here. And we have the little, shepherds and chimney sweep. And here we have the queen again. Why is she here? Because this was her birthday. And the first one was actually also her birthday. That was her 75th year's birthday, where the Prince and Consort actually did not attend, but he did attend in my picture, because this is what I can do, fulfill my own dreams at least. We have Hans Christian Andersen next to the Queen Margrethe II, and they're looking out. And here we have Von Ebeling. He's the Robin Hood, helping all the poor people, and he was captured, and he was prisoned in Nuremberg behind this castle, and they asked him, "Do you have a last wish?" And he says, yes, he does. He would like to have the last riding on his horse, his beautiful horse. And they look and they say, oh, well, he's up here at all these walls, nothing can happen. So they bring in the horse. And Von Ebeling starts riding around and round and round and round and speeding up the horse. So all the people watching him was moving out to the walls, and he jumped over the wall and out into freedom. We have Hans Sachs, the singing shoemaker, and this is Albrecht Dürer's house. So I have some of his dogs in here. He is every artist like me working with graphic artwork. Albrecht Dürer, he's the king. He's back on a train journey. He's going from Nuremberg to Augsburg. And we have the little mermaid down here. She appears a few times. She's also so beautiful. So here we have the Musk rocket. And that was when I was told, okay, you need to put in some from now. And I was like, oh, but this picture, I had already finished it. So how could I put in? You need to put in Musk, I was told from Houston. So I noticed that I had all the steam as a beautiful white space left in the picture. So the steam, I could make it end up as the Musk rocket. And then the first English steam train was called the Rocket. So, you know, sometimes I'm just so lucky. He arrives in Augsburg, and this is one of his big wishes to be there. He knew Augsburg from postcards. He knew them and he could look at them, but now he could walk around and see what's around the next corner. And that was really appealing to me, looking at this. When you look at a postcard, how often do you think, I would like to see what's around the corner? But he was thinking that, and he was walking around the corner. And here we have the town hall, and we have the little mermaid, or the Thumbelina, and we have you and we have me sitting on the stairs on the town hall with our cell phones, and we have the balloon ship and the eagle from this town hall in Augsburg. But this is also, you know, from the now. And he was really, really happy that he could walk around in Augsburg. I haven't been there. Of course, I wanted to go everywhere he'd been. That was my plan one. And then the exhibitions venues started rolling in, and I was like, okay, how do I get on from there? And I just didn't have time to go to Augsburg and Nuremberg and go to Munich. So he traveled and he saw everything, and he visited Kaulburg, the painter in Munich, and I had to Google. It's a fantastic where you can go. And when he was writing in his book, The Poet's Bazaar, which is where I got all these, this is all his thinking, his diary in The Poet's Bazaar that I have been picturing here. He was visiting the painter Kaulburg. And I didn't know that Hans Christian Andersen's biggest dream was to become a painter. It didn't really work for him, but he visited a lot of painters. And here he is we are looking at the painting Doomsday called Hundenslagt of Wilhelm von Kaulbach, and he's visiting him in the studio, and we have the skyline today of Munich. This guy here, we know Big Klaus and Little Klaus, and this is one of the ending scenes where, if you haven't read this fairy tale recently, do it. It's so horrible and so funny at the same time. He's killing his brother, but the brother is fooling him, and some of you might remember it made a big impression on me when my father read it for me, but rereading it was really so different with the age I have today. This is one of my favorite, always adding into the picture the little turtle, because it takes time to go to get to your goal, and somebody holding out a carrot in front of you is always a good thing. He comes to Austria. I don't know why it's going so slow now, but you have time, right? He's in Innsbruck, and we have the Snow Queen, the frosty windows here, and the roses from the Snow Queen. And we have the monument of Andreas Hofer. He fought for his country and Emperor France with love and devotion, and he's blessed by the hand of God. And here we have Innsbruck and the river. It's very cold when he's in this horse carriage, and it's not that pleasant being in there, because in such a horse carriage, you don't choose the group of people being in it yourself, but you'll meet some of them on some pictures coming ahead. He's now in Verona, and in Verona he is announcing himself as being a sun alcoholic, because he just is devoted to get to drink some sunstrokes. So I had him holding out a glass and the sun pouring the light in here so he could drink it. And while he's sitting there, his thoughts are going back to his beloved country, Denmark. And outside him, around him, there's wars going on, like it is for us right now. And luckily, we are so safe and so blessed where we are. This picture here is he's in Mantua, and he walks across the stone bridge across the River Po, and he's attracted by music, and he walks into this small inn, and he sees this ugly little man playing the most beautiful violin with the amazing singing voice, and his young, beautiful wife with a harp. So Hans Christian Andersen leaves a coin, and we have his fairy tale, The Silver Shilling. He's in Bologna. He's in the Apennines. I hope I haven't pronounced. Oh, and what do we have here? We have the Ferrari. I mean, we can't be in Italy and not have a Ferrari on it. I actually have a friend who said he had a Ferrari, but when he had it, he said he was going to sell it because he would rather say that he had one than having one, because it was kind of some trouble to keep it going. Hans Christian Andersen is looking at this young woman sitting at the street lamp with her child. I'm very poor, so he leaves a coin with them, and he's hearing this fluid. We are in 3 different places in this picture, but in one of the places that they're staying overnight, he hears this fluid coming from some of the rooms, and he walks around, and he finds this old man sitting only dressed in a shirt, playing one note only on the flute. He's abandoned from the rest of the family and locked up in this room, but the room was open so he could just peep in, and left very quickly again. And Hans Christian Andersen imagined that the eternal, let me say, I have to have this here. Hans Christian Andersen believes that the light shining on the leaning towers is from Dante's Divine Comedy. He knows so many things. I was like, I mean, he couldn't Google, and it was in 40, and he's born in 5, so he's 35 years old. And the knowledge he had of when he was 35, when I was 35, I picked up a pencil, and I decided I was going to start to be an artist out of nowhere. He is in Florence. In Florence, he is inspired by the metal pig, the metal pig. So he starts writing a fairy tale about, he sees this young poor boy sitting, drinking water, falling asleep next to the metal pig. So he imagines that the boy jumps on the back on the metal pigs and rides into the museum, and he's looking at the painting in Uffizi Gallery, the Christ descending into hell by Florentine and Giulio Bronzino. Now, this is my Italian is not the best, but they're looking at it, and the boy is just loves looking at this, and he sees these small angels looking up as if they were imagining that I'm going to heaven. In the horse carriage, we have a heavy Englishman, an Englishman who is name dropping all the time. So the Senora and Senorita, they're bowing for him because he must be a really important man, that he can talk about so many really famous and important people. And but Hans Christian Andersen here has seen him straight on. He's a very sharp eye. He has a really clear tongue. And so he sees this Englishman right away. And when they're in this Castellone, the Senora, she's stepping out backwards from the horse carriage, and she steps right out into a black sea of pigs, and everything is moving. And I'm sorry, this picture is so unclear, but this picture we actually forgot to take a professional photo of. And so it's now in Elkhorn, and this I need to have a proper picture of it when I renewed with this picture. But anyway, everybody cried. Senora cried, the pigs cried, and the shepherd cried. And the Englishman, he's standing here. And he's the one taking the best piece of meat. He's the one, when they come to an inn and there's a fireplace, he would hang up his wet clothes in front of the fireplace. So everybody else is sitting there cold and freezing, and his clothes get dry. And here I'm going to read this from my paper. Hans Christian Andersen and companions stayed the night at an inn. The rooms are linked to a tab room by a very steep set of steps going vertical down 2 stories. The well-padded Englishman slides down all the steps, while toads and lizards and snakes emerged from his mouth. I think we all know what kind of language that has been. So the fairy tale here, of course, is the toad. So here they come to Albergo Groce di Malti, and the fairy tale is the Sandman. Hans Christian Andersen finally can make a choice. There's only one bedroom, and the Englishman, of course, chooses the bedroom. There are 2 beds in it, and then there's a loft. And in the loft, the priest chooses to sleep on the floor. And then Hans Christian Andersen makes a bed of 2 chairs. I have been sleeping on 2 chairs set together when I was a child and my parents were visiting friends. I've actually also done it in a police station in Sligo. Now, this was not because I was held back, but this was because everything else was closed when I was 18 years old and finally arrived in Sligo by train. And another girlfriend of me, we went to the police station and said, where can we sleep tonight? Everything is closed. And they said, well, you can get our canteen, and there were only chairs. So I've also been sleeping like this at the age of 18 in Ireland. But here he is sleeping like this. And the next morning, the offended Englishman says, I shall never speak to you again on this journey. To which Hans Christian Andersen replies, I shall not hold it against you. I just remember, I love that. He could also have said, today we would say no comment. Rome. He visited this Capuchin crypt where all the deceased cardinals and monks are kept for 8 years. After they've been lying down there in this crypt for 8 years, they take them up, and if they stand and their skeletons are held by their clothes, they would stand like this in the crypt. Otherwise, it would only be the skeletons you see it around. Have anybody been there? But that's also a place for us to go. So we have the little tin shoulder, standing here with one leg in the fontaine, where Michelangelo was inspired by the legend of the stranded boat. And here Hans Christian Andersen sees a hearse passing by the Spanish Steps of Raphael's painting. I've added in from Disputa del Sacramento. And here we have the rockets going off from either from Florida. It's called Cape
Canaveral.
Thank you. And I've been there years ago. So I think this, if you've been to Rome, this for me looks like Rome. The 17th of January, this was new for me. There's actually quite a lot of things that was new knowledge for me, reading these at Poets Bazaar, and also then I had to make all the images and find out how to do it. But the 17th of January, and this I might do next year. I might travel to Italy next year with my dog and get him blessed by monks and priests. So you might, where you are, know that you can get your pets blessed one day in a year, and you can and even the Pope's horses was blessed. And Hans Christian Andersen saw this woman with her donkey that she was going to have them blessed. We have here the big dogs from the tinderbox with the eyes. They're getting blessed here, and these are the war airplanes. We know these. While he's walking around in Rome, he gets caught by the rain and he gets soaked, and he has such a toothache. I think Hans Christian Andersen is known for having toothaches. So he's sitting in his small hotel room, all soaked. He places his boots by the fireplace, and his head turns around if it was windmills. And then he writes the fairy tale, The Boots, and he says it's like the fairy tale is writing itself. It just pours out of him like the raindrops are pouring off him. The Imperial Castle. In the Imperial Castle, a frog is hopping about, perhaps a former empress condemned to live in the deep abyss because of her evil thoughts. Outside the ruins, the past, propelled by the power of thought, is flying around the earth, only lingering when people disparage their lives and doings. Fly across sea and land, no kinship, no political bond, nothing to protect you. You stand alone. Humans will judge, God will forgive. So this, and when I did this, I have the little fairy tale, the thought, and I was thinking of, you know, the song, The Little Yellow Aeroplane. At least we know it in Denmark. You can start singing it, Hans Henrik. Have you got a song calling The Little Yellow Aeroplane? Or is it only Danish? Well, we have it anyway. In Rome, they also have a church, the Saint Canute, and Hans Christian Andersen visiting, and his thoughts were going back to his favorite church in Odense, the church King Canute, where Canute was killed way back. And Hans Christian Andersen had his confirmation here, but also his father was buried in the church of the King Canute, and the fairy tale is the red shoes. The Colosseum. His thoughts goes back to all the gladiators fighting the animals. And while I was working on this picture, the former President Bush died, and we had this picture walking around the world with his coffin and his dog, very honorable, just lying beside his owner's coffin. And I just had to add it in this picture. And I actually really like this picture. He is also viewing a carnival, and they are dancing around to the rhythm of the tambourine. And who more fits in than the emperor's new clothes in the carnival than from this fairy tale here. He's looking out the window and he sees this group of men all in white clothing with hoods on. In one hand a candle, and on the other hand they're all carrying a young dead woman, and he just sees it walking by, and all the people are bowing and taking off the hats, and I have an UFO coming in. Some of you probably must have seen an UFO. That's still for me to in waiting. Lago del Castello and the fairy tale are the shepherd, the sweethearts. We have them here. And Hans Christian Andersen is thinking of what he's saying is the world's most fantastic opera singer, the late Malibran Garcia. So she is here. And from today, which we all know and probably have been in. And here we have the Celtic Horse Island. Mediterranean. He's on the warship Leonidas, and the fairy tale is the old sultan. At this time, there was a sultan that was really evil, and this we're talking about 2019, 2018. And he was talking about this horrible, evil sultan in the news. So I thought that Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, the Sultan, was the old sultan, was appropriate to add in. He's standing here looking out the window of the old warship and looking out on Etna on fire. And we have, of course, the surfboards and the canoes here. Finally, he gets ashore on a small island in Greece, and he needs to go to a barber shop. So he goes in there, and his hair is stringed onto the wall. His head is taken off, and then he gets his head shaved. Imagine that your neck is closed like this, and this knife comes around. I think the feeling is easy even for a woman to imagine. We have the sparrow here, and we have the peacock, and the fairy tale, the neighbors. So the sparrow tells to her, I don't know if you say chickens of small baby birds of a sparrow, but that's what I'm saying now. So they look at this beautiful peacock, and their mother says, well, if he gets all his feather cuts off, he looks like the rest of us. I like that. Exactly. So put on your feathers, but when you take them off. He arrives at Piraeus, and he's on the old Greek carriage here, and we have Greeks in national lovely costumes, and we have Acropolis here, and we have the small rose elf. And this is not my imagination. This is one of his paper cuttings. All my states, could you call it? What would you call it? That I've used to tell the stories, they are inspired by his paper cuttings. So you can actually look them up. And he's in Athens, and he drives by Ross's Palm. And while he's doing this, a young Greek just come on these two-wheel carriages in a speed like you wouldn't imagine. And he's sitting there talking to all the philosophers, and he's talking about them in his book. We all admire the philosophers, I think, and we still use them, and we still think of how could they think so far ahead. We haven't. Easter party. It's Easter celebration, and we have the fairy tale Clumsy Hans. He's here. He's also one of my favorite fairy tales, where the princess says, next. I love it. That's I'm always living that fairy tale. Next one. So we have Hans Christian Andersen on a horseback. I didn't know, and I didn't have the imagination to see Hans Christian Andersen actually on a horseback, but he rode out of town with some of his friends and was seeing the Easter celebration and a lot of fireworks. And of course, he's riding along with Clumsy Hans. Delphi. At Delphi, he is inspired to write the fairy tale, The Bond of Friendship. It's a beautiful fairy tale. It's two friends, and then there's a young girl. She's adopted by one of the boys' father because he was a friend of the young girl's father, and the father was killed of the young girl. So they take her in, and she grows up. Here he's carrying her on the back. They take very much care of her, and she grows up. And the boys' hearts, of course, fell on this young girl. But this guy, he can see that her heart falls on this guy. So in honor of his friend, he's leaving the family and letting her have her favorite sweetheart. And I, with permission of my friend who got married while I was doing this piece of work to a young girl from the Philippines, I had them in here, and the fairy tale is as the bond of friendship. Omir's grave, and he's sitting there, and we have the nightingale, and the nightingale is singing, so all the leaves fall off the rose at Omir's grave. Well, Hans Christian Andersen is plucking the only rose that's there, and he's putting it into his book to dry it. And I think we know this one here with the sirens trying to persuade them to sail out, of course. I find that the paper cuttings, the women, they nicely makes the scene for the story. He arrives in Turkey, and he's on the boat, and he is he's seeing this young a young Turkish girl, and she's sitting there, and he's sitting and looking at each other, and he's talking Danish and she's talking Turkish, and they laugh because they don't understand each other. Finally, she takes one of her ponytails and she lays it down into his hand and sort of made a line, and he knew that you don't need to know a language to be able to understand each other. And they were passing a lot of windmills, and he's made the fairy tale the windmill. Why I put this windmill in here. He's at the bazaar, and he's seeing crowds of Persians with hairy pointed caps, Armenians with upside down cone-shaped black hats, and dressed up Greeks. And we have this just landing in the sea, coming down safely. Another of the what you know the name of this dive? Can you remember what this? It was a cup that's been out in space. finally
like
landed,
from a shuttle.
Yes, exactly. But I just love this shape, and I think it fitted so nicely in here. The Dervishers, I haven't seen them, but I would love to see them. I would love to see these men in their green clothes dance round and round and round in one spot all the time. And he's seeing them. And I added in the stalks from his fairy tale, the stalks, because I could see that they could almost do the same turn. You will see that I have used this same cover etching a few times in this exhibition with different stories. So this is from the fairy tale The Little Mermaid. The first one was when he was sort of leaving Denmark. He's looking out on the sea, and he arrives in Istanbul at Muhammad's birthday. And on Muhammad's birthday, all the minarets are lit up with decorated with chains of lights, and you see the mirroring of Istanbul in the water because it's nighttime. Bosporus, he is on the boat, and he's standing on the opposite side, observing how beautiful. Oh, this is wrong. He observes a boat full of roses, and you see this young little girl in the boat smiling as she energetic drums on this Turkish drum, and he's smiling to her, and she gets so shy that she starts laughing, and she falls down in all the roses, and that doesn't stop her laugh. In this picture, he actually is saying that it was a very dark-skinned man rowing the boat, but I didn't want to show that, so I showed him from the backside. I find it difficult with all these. I don't find it difficult saying she's playing on a Turkish drum or it's a young Turkish girl, but I find it difficult to say that it was a really and as it couldn't be an Afro-American because he's not in America, so it must be an African person in Turkey. I don't know, Turkish African, I don't know, but now I'm saying it somehow. So we have the little match girls sitting here, and they're sailing up and that as their way to Bosporus. They're on Bosporus. Bulgaria. He walks across the steppes between the Black Sea and the Danube. And while he's walking there, he sees his favorite bird, the stork, is lying dead at the riverside. And also he sees 3 Turkish men come riding towards him in full speed. And he gets a little bit worried, are they going to run him down? But they're not. And on this one, I have In 1,000 Years, the American airplanes. I don't know if you know the fairy tale In 1,000 Years, but Hans Christian Andersen wrote that in 1,000 years, the young Americans would come to Europe in in a fast speed, and they will see everything and go from place to place to place to place. And only in 28 years after his death, the first aeroplane was in the air. So he was, imagine if he had known that. To go from the Orient and go back, going to travel up the Danube and getting back from Bulgaria and going back to Vienna, and so he needs to be quarantined. You say quarantine, right? Quarantine. Yeah.
Yes.
And at that time, I'm drawing this picture in 2019, and if you read the Poets Bazaar, Hans Christian Andersen is in words writing, we are all quarantined. And at that time, I was sitting in my studio and I was locked to my desk, making these pictures finished. And I was like, yeah, you're right. How did I not imagine at all that within the next year, we would all be sort of in a quarantine, and some are today. You need to from COVID-19. I had no idea that this would happen, but he's in this quarantine and he's there in a certain amount of days to clear him. But if he close or a hair touches the one in the next room, his quarantine time is lengthened. But he does climb up in a tree because he wants to see what's going on in the outside world. I'm sure he did. He was such a brave, courageous man. And on the tree, I added his small paper cuttings, so it looked a little more interesting. Austria. And here he's speaking to Strauss, and Strauss for me is ballrooms with crystal lightning and long white dresses and men that just know how to sway you around the floor, not stepping on your toes or letting you fall. That's also something I still have left to experience, but time will come. The Alp, he travels back. And on this picture, I'm actually using the same, because I was very short of time. So I was using the same line drawing copper etching, painting it differently, adding in Holger Danske. I just have to find him here. He's called, Holger Danske, the Danish hero. He's steering the ship. I have one of my own family. They were christening the youngest baby, Hans Christian Andersen, in here, because he's sailing back the same way. So I did it in a new way, painted it differently. That's a freedom I have, that in some of these pictures, you would only see some of the images in that picture because it's painted on. It's not in the line drawing etching. Can you follow me? There's questions afterwards. Hello, John. I see you, John Birch from Houston.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. And here we have him back on a steam train going back to Hamburg. And he's back, and he's so lucky that when he comes back, he's experiencing the second concert with Liszt. And if you look carefully, here we have the Danish queen on her own, because from when I started at her 75th birthday till I was working on this piece, the Prince of Consort were deceased, so she's now a widower. We still have the steam train, we have the swan, and we have the ugly duckling here. And these are also just painted in to this copper etching, because on the other one, I had other things happening. Home. Home is where your heart is. Hans Christian Andersen is finally arriving back in Denmark, and he says he does not know the feeling of being homesick, but if the feeling of thinking of the ones you love while you're traveling is homesick, then he's familiar with the feeling. So this is a journey with him, and I'm so glad that you participated in this traveling with him. So I will stop my slideshow here and go back to the screen. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. So I'll stop sharing here, and then I need to find. I'm back. Okay. Hello, dear.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it was really great to get more insight into your process and how you worked through traveling with him. We have a little bit of time for some questions now. And so people are welcome to put it in the chat, or you're also welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question directly. To start us off, I have a question for you. How did you choose copper etching as your technique? Has that always been your technique of choice, or did you weigh a few different options before settling on copper
I think
etching?
when I start a piece of work, that I always think that I will do it as paintings. And then it's like I'm hold back a little, because I think that my way of drawing and working works with the possibility that I have working on a cover etching. It can also be on, it doesn't have to be on cover, it could be on plexi plates, or it can be on cardboard. There are different techniques, monotypes, which I think you're going to talk a little about maybe. And it's so easy to add in stuff, and let your hand roll over the plate and have the freedom in it. And because I can do the coverage, I can add on to the plate. If I show this plate again, I mean, it starts like this, all clean, nothing. And if I show you this line drawing, I have the possibility of working with other techniques as aquatint or flat biting, but I can also cover it again with the varnish and add some more stuff onto it if I want to. And also it's possible for me to make another picture, which I actually showed in this slide, that I used some of the plates twice in a very different way. Which was a kind of shortcut in the beginning, but I kind of like how it turned out as it was traveling back the same way. And yes, there's still some pictures that I would like to add into it that I haven't done yet. Because I haven't really done his traveling back up the Danube. Where traveling up the Danube, there's so many rocks. They have to leave the ship, because if the ship is loaded with people, it will they might get all killed, which had happened before. So they had to let all the people get off the boat, and then they had to walk while the man was dragging the boat by rope lines. But while they were doing that, if Hans Christian Andersen and his group were touching the man dragging the boat along, they would all have to be going back to quarantine. So even the tails on the horses were tied on to the horses by strings. And this picture, of course, I have to do, because wouldn't that be awful to be brought back like you're back in quarantine? So there's still some images that you haven't had yet that I have to work on here.
We certainly look forward to seeing the series as it expands.
Yes. That's it's a never-ending story, sort of. And I didn't know that I was going to work with this, this, how this started and how it's talking to me and how people are telling me things. So now I've also set music to some of his poems. One of the latest, see if I can find it, I worked on with the images in the dresses. This is an inspiration And I've written down a poem. The only city or village he's wrote a poem about is actually Korsør, where I live. So I've set this poem to music. I'm not singing it for you now. I would easily do it, but I'm not. And but I wrote in the lyrics, and then I have here also the where he was in the. But also I'm keeping using the dresses. I was really feeling like, wow, now I find my own scene. Every artist wants to find their own way of working, and I think so. When I see somebody else is working with dresses and whatever, I'm like, that's my that's my idea, but that's not the way the world works. So if I'm inspiration to somebody, feel free, but don't show it to me ever. So
thank you again to everybody for joining us, and especially thank you to Susanne for such a wonderful program.
Thank you.
I think it's been lovely to gather here with everybody. I know for us it's a lunch hour here in Elkhorn, but I know for some of you this is more like dinner time.
Yeah. It is.
or coffee, evening coffee, and Denmark. Something like that. So, but thank you so much for participating. It's for me, it's so good seeing you. And as I said, I hate leaving you. But you also said, Dia, that it's is it Dia? Dia?
Yes.
Dia, yeah. It's possible you are putting something out on YouTube.
Yes. The recording of
this is my first YouTube performance. Rah!
The recording of this will be available after. So if you missed anything, definitely keep an eye out for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see everybody later this summer at the workshop.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening. Dinner, lunch. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Take care. Bye, John.
Bye, Susanna.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so good seeing you. So good seeing you all. Hello, Lovell. Bye-bye. Bye, Lena. Have fun. Take care. Yeah. Hello, John. It's so good seeing you.
Good to see you. Well, let's talk again.
We will.
All right.
We found our way to set up personal Zoom meetings.
Okay, good. Maybe that's better.
Yeah. Thank you, Dia, so much. Thank you to the museum. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. This has been such a beautiful experience, and traveling is great. And also, we have all acknowledged Hans Christian Andersen's favorite quote: "To travel is to live," and we are longing for going traveling, aren't we?
Oh, yes. And
yes,
please know that you are welcome at Tivoli Fest anytime.
Oh, I will. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, even if it's not related to an exhibit, we'd love to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
And we'll definitely be in touch about the details of the
workshop.
July workshop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes.
So are you closing the meeting?
Yes,
right?
I will end the meeting now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, John.
Thank you again.
Bye, Dia.
Bye.
Have fun.
Thank you. You too.
Bye. Yes,
Bye.
thank you. Bye. Bye.